Hey, this is Dean Cain, and you're watching Good Life. And so am I.
Welcome to Good Life. I'm Dean Wilson. So glad you've joined us. Wherever you are, we welcome you. If you're at goodlifetelevision.org, all around the world, or if you're in Santa Barbara, California, watching on TV Santa Barbara, we're so glad you're with us. You can also find us at all the social media platforms. And a lot of you are finding us at our podcast, which all these interviews are turned into podcast episodes. So you can find us there at Good Life Conversations, Good Life Conversations, anywhere where you get your podcast. So many great people, so many great stories now at goodlifetelevision.org. And we've got a great guy today with us. I'm so pleased to welcome Dean Cain to the program. Welcome.
Dean Wilson, thank you for having me, sir. It's a pleasure.
Yeah.
There's not many deans.
There needs to be more deans, just like there needs to be more redheads. I've
heard deans for sure. Redheads,
I've heard redheads are going extinct. But, yeah, so I did my part by naming my son Dean Jr. You have a middle name of your son.
My son,
Dean.
middle name.
Yeah.
He got my father's.
Christopher.
So my father's name. It was a way to honor my father who adopted me when I was 4.
Right.
So yeah, but the Dean, it's very traditional because his mom's from Spain, that the firstborn son gets the father's name as the middle name. So I got that in there.
I love it. Yeah. So my son goes by DJ. He's Dean Jr.
Oh,
but
nice.
Every once in a while, I hear his baseball teammates, like I did yesterday in the dugout, yelling, "Let's go, Dean!" And it kind of wakes him up because he's always DJ. But
it's funny how that is though. Like there's not many deans, so anytime I'm on set and there's another dean, oh, it's a problem. Because then I hear Dean, my head swivels around, so we have to come up with another name.
You know what Dean means, right?
I do not.
You don't know the meaning?
No.
Okay, we were talking about this.
Learn me.
On the car drive down here today, we were talking about it. I said, I wonder if he knows what Dean means. Chief or leader.
All right, Mom, thank you. Really?
Here we are.
I love that.
We can wrap the program.
And scene.
Chief or leader.
That's great.
That's it, yeah. So that's us.
All right.
Dean and Dean.
I'm going to drink my coffee to that.
So if you don't know Dean Cain, actor, producer, he's now, of course, directing. We're going to talk about that. He's a writer. He's born in Mount Clemens, Michigan, but really raised in Malibu, Santa Monica High School. So first of all, I have to ask, what in the world was Charlie Sheen like in high school?
Charlie was a really nice guy. He was. I played baseball with Charlie for about 11 years.
Did you really?
Yeah, good baseball player. Funny guy, quiet, reserved. Hadn't found the tiger's blood or those things yet. So he was really a kind of a quiet, reserved kid with a great sense of humor. It wasn't until just before he graduated high school where things started to turn a little more dynamic, shall we say?
Right.
And then he's a phenomenal actor, and he is. My dad hired him and put him in Young Guns. My dad's a director. And,
right.
He had all those kids in Young Guns that I grew up with, which was great. But Charlie was a quiet, reserved kid. If you saw Charlie in elementary school or junior high school compared to the Charlie Sheen that the world knows now,
you wouldn't recognize it.
It's Jekyll and Hyde.
So you grew up in this world, this Malibu, Santa Monica kind of Rob Lowe, Dean Cain, Charlie Sheen. What an interesting time. I mean, what was it like?
Well, it's funny because it didn't seem special. It just seemed like I grew up in Paradise Cove, which is actually a trailer park. When people were like, "Oh, you grew up in Malibu," I was like, "I grew up in a trailer park." Of course, those trailers now sell for $1.7 million, but it's not that they're very nice. It's the 3 most important words in real estate: location, location, location.
Right.
And it's just beautiful. I thought that everybody. We would go outside after I had breakfast, and we'd be out there playing until it got dark. We knew we had to be home right at dark. I mean, it's so cliche to say it, but that's how it was. We'd be able to walk to the beach. We'd be able to do all kinds of stuff. And just this group of kids that were running around. It wasn't as though we felt special or privileged. All of our parents were involved in our lives. It's different than the Malibu now, unfortunately, because I find there are a lot of folks who are in Malibu who aren't great parents, and they're not with their kids all the time, and it's a different thing, and I lament that. That's a real bummer because everything that I do, I'm a father first.
Yeah.
And I was taught that through my own father, who, like I said, adopted me when I was 4. And so my family was always together. We were always there and together. And all these kids, we just thought it was regular that our families worked in film. I didn't think that was anything special, other than that we'd go do this. I mean, I was in these little movies with my dad. He'd make me go, "Okay, Dean, you stand here and you say this." I was like, "I don't want to say that." And he'd be like, all right, who wants to say it? And Chris Penn's like, I'll say it. And I was like, okay. And they took my line. Thank you, Chris. Chris has passed, rest in peace. But, it was just a regular life. I didn't think anything was special about it. We just thought this is great fun. And we, I had a wonderful, idyllic childhood. But it wasn't until right when I was getting to college time that some of these guys started doing films and acting and becoming famous. Sean Penn doing Fast Times at Ridgemont High. Jeff Spicoli. I was like, well, I remember when I heard Sean was taking acting classes. I was like, that's so weird. Like I didn't see us transitioning into the sort of the adult world because we had this little bubble in Malibu that we lived in and everything was, wonderful. So it wasn't until that happened and then he did that. And then Rob Lowe started to act and do things. And I was like, that's interesting, but I'm going off to Princeton and I'm going to play football and then I'm going to go to the NFL. That was my thought process. Yeah.
And a lot of people don't know that you set a Princeton record for interceptions in a season. So you weren't just playing, you were good.
No, I would like to think I call myself very good. I set not just Princeton records, I set 2 NCAA records. So that still stand today, actually. I set several. So when I got to Princeton, growing up in Malibu, California, going to Princeton to me was like a whole nother world. And it really was. I wasn't prepared for the academics when I got there. As easy as academics were for me in Malibu schools and in Santa Monica High School, and they were easy, and I took a lot of AP courses and things like that. It was easy for me. When I got to Princeton, I took my first exam. I got an 86 on it. I was like, sweet, C minus? I was like, what is that? 86? Like, well, you didn't do the extra credit, and everybody else did, and like we grade on a curve. And 86 is a C minus. And I was like, I am in trouble here, folks. But by the time I was a senior, I had figured it out and caught up, and then it was actually got easy for me. But I couldn't have ever imagined that I was going to go to school on the East Coast and have the kind of experience that I had. I got lost in that. Where was it? Oh, football. See, that's what happens with all that football. No, so I got there and I was able to, as a freshman, you couldn't play varsity, so you had to play a freshman season. So I was only able to have 3 seasons as a varsity player, as all of my classmates as well. And because of that, I ended up having 22 interceptions in 30 games. We only played 10 games a season. That's a per game average still for football championship subdivision, FCS. 1AA is what it used to be. That still holds for career per game average. And then my senior year in 10 games, I had 12 interceptions, which was at the time the most any player ever had in college football, regardless of the number of games. But we only played 10 games at Princeton. That's all they still play. We don't get to play postseason. Some of these schools are playing 14 games.
Right.
And that's just not fair for the stats, although my per game average is still holding 900 years after I graduated. So yes!
What were you, free safety? Or?
Free safety.
So you could read. You must have had an ability to read.
Yeah, I was a zone guy. I didn't like to lock up in man cover. I played corner my sophomore year. I had 5 interceptions at corner, but the corners, that was not a natural. It's just real athletic. You just have to be super fast, and it really is man coverage all the time. It really kind of is. Free safety, I was the quarterback of the defense. I could see all the flow, read everything. I might not have been the fastest person to play safety in the NFL or certainly in college, but I'll be there where I'm supposed to be 2 steps ahead of you. That's the way just because I knew every play, every flow, everything to look for, and I had to adjust when I got to the NFL because things happen a lot faster.
Yeah, I was going to say. So you get Buffalo Bills, you get there, and you blow your knee out. So that was your plan. So all of a sudden you're finding yourself in a reset position here. Take us back to that time.
Well, it helps being young and kind of stupid as well because I figured, okay, my injury wasn't horrible. It was I tore my lateral meniscus completely. That cartilage was gone, and the problem I had was there in your femoral head. It's all covered in cartilage. I blew a piece of bone off of that, a big piece of bone. So I had a bone-on-bone issue, and they did this microfracture surgery, and I thought it was going to be fine, and I would just come back. It happened 3 days before the first preseason game against Houston, and I remember sort of politicking, like, let me just play Houston. Let me just play against Houston, because I knew once I got on the field, that's where I'd make my bones. Because I'm really comfortable. I was really comfortable on the field. Give me the game time situation, and I will be that player who just ends up in the right place at the right time when the ball gets fumbled. And so that's how I'd made my bones all through my career. And that didn't happen. They said, no. I remember it was a drug testing day because you have to go in and drug test for the league. Because I was a rookie, my drug test time was like 6:30 in the morning. I remember Bruce Smith was coming in at 2 p.m. and stuff like that. I was like, that's not fair. They're like, shut up, rookie. Okay. And so I came in and we'd had a day off from camp. I'd been in camp for weeks. And then the trainer said, he goes, hey, how's that knee feeling, Cain? I go, actually good. It's the best it's felt. And he looked at it, he goes, I don't know. You better go see the doctor. And I was like, uh-oh. It was literally, you could, it was over at that point. They had made their decision that I was going to be operated on and then gone and then brought back the next season if nobody claimed me off of waivers. So I didn't think I was done. I sat on the team all the way until just before playoffs, and they cut me off of injured reserve, which is against the collective bargaining agreement. I sued them, I won, but I was once you do that, you're gone from the league. Oh. And the thing for me, it's a bummer because I was a rookie, with Thurman Thomas. We had like 6 Hall of Famers on the team: Thurman Thomas, Bruce Smith, Jim Kelly, Andre Reed, Coach Marv Levy. I mean, there's so many great players. Cornelius Bennett. It was crazy, and it was a great time to be there. And I really fit in, and I really thought this would be wonderful. If I played 5 years, I'd have seen 4 Super Bowls.
Yeah.
And then I always joke, well, I don't joke. I say, you like to believe as an athlete that you could have made a difference,
right.
And they would have won one of those Super Bowls. Right. And I said that once I even said maybe I lined up in the wrong spot and somehow got the lucky bounce. And I said that to a sports writer in Buffalo, and then the headline was, Cain thinks he could have changed Buffalo's thing. I was like, no, I didn't say that. But it was I thought I'd come back, and the injury never got to that place. The surgery took and did well, but it didn't do well enough. And so I had to retire. And that was weird. I was 22 years old. The 2 things I always did well, schoolwork and play sports. I mean, I played 3 sports in college. I played football, I ran track, and then I captained the volleyball team. So Princeton's a good volleyball team, believe it or not. Which is also my show. Sorry. But they really are a good volleyball team. And so I was always doing athletics in school. So all of a sudden, the 2 things that I did best were just done.
Yeah.
It's finished. I'm 22 years old. I was like, okay, here we go, start again. And it's really humbling. Yeah. It's really humbling. And then I just put my nose to the grindstone and started going on auditions as an actor, commercial auditions and things like that, taking acting classes, which I'd really never liked very much because I found them to be odd. Give me an emotion and a body movement. That's kind of the things you'd be doing. I'm like, this really is stupid. Whatever. So that'd be the things you're doing. I was like, what am I doing here? And then I just started to be myself, and I started getting more acting jobs, and that was wonderful and great. But I mean, it would be, okay, you're doing a commercial audition. Okay, these 4 guys, come on inside. Okay, guys, take off your shirts and eat Doritos and pretend you're dancing at a party having a good time. We're all like, okay. Me and 3 other guys just eating Doritos, and that's how the commercial auditions went. It was very humbling, but that's where, Brad Pitt, was it, I think, the Chick-fil-A chicken or something like that, or something. That's what happens when you're young and you're wanting to work. You take those jobs, you put your ego aside, and you work your way up, and that's what I did. And it took a couple of years, and then I finally hit the role of Superman, and that was the beginning of all this madness.
What a journey. You mentioned your adopted dad. So he was like born and raised in South Dakota or something? Yeah. I mean, he was like a real cowboy.
Oh yeah, my dad was a real cowboy. He was raised in Sioux Falls, South Dakota, on a farm. I mean, he was so happy to go away to college because he was so sick of having to get up in the morning and milk the cows and feed the chickens and get out there. And South Dakota gets bone-chilling cold. I mean, right. It's cold out there. So, and I think he had a motorcycle, rode a bike or something. He tells me the stories. Uphill both ways in the snow and all that stuff. But he also rode. He was a real cowboy. He rode bulls in the rodeos and things like that. So he came out to Hollywood to be a singer, and he sang with Andy Williams and all kinds of people. And he cut a record. You cut a record, Dad. And I found that record and I put it on a CD, of course. For the kids out there, the CD is what we used to do before it was digital. It was, but I gave it to everybody, and we still play his songs. I have it on my on my phone now. I can play the songs he sang. But he really he started as an actor, was doing some things, and he met my mom. They fell in love, and right away I was like, I guess for me, immediately I was calling him Dad.
Yeah.
Which is a little, you're dating a single mom with 2 kids and the one kid starts calling you dad. I mean, that's pretty quick. Maybe I put the pressure on him. But he's the greatest influence in my life. And had he not come in to my life, I know that my life would be a whole different ball of wax.
Because I was going to say, you mentioned that in terms of your values. I mean, he was a real cowboy. I mean, in terms of kind of that America, rugged individualism, figure it out. I mean, a lot of that was instilled in you came from him, didn't it?
100%.
Yeah.
100%.
What a gift.
My other side of the family was military. So I was born on a military air base, Selfridge Air Force Base, and that was also a lot of hard work and grit. But my dad, I always call it farmer advice. He always gives farmer advice, and we write together and do things together. And he starts writing dialogue sometime. He's like, he writes dialogue like, there's a young man was going to see his grandmother to get some advice over something. And she doesn't talk about it. She goes, that tree over there is, it's looking, a little peaked there. It's because the roots aren't strong. So if the roots aren't strong, and it gets into that sort of, that's how, and I'm like, Dad, you write this stuff. He's like, I live this stuff. I'm like, okay. But he gave that advice, that silly farmer advice to me my whole life. And I look at the times where I really needed him and he was there every time. Even at Princeton, I almost left Princeton my sophomore year. I had a coach who I love now, but hated then, Steve Verbit. If you're out there, Verbs. And we're still great friends. He's still at Princeton. He's the longest serving coach in Ivy League history. But he was up my tail like nobody had ever been, and I was so sick of it. And at Princeton, you weren't treated very special because you were an athlete. It was actually the opposite. I remember I had to miss a Friday class because we were traveling to go play Dartmouth. And it's a long way from Princeton, New Jersey to Hanover, New Hampshire. It's a 9-hour bus ride, and so whatever. So we had to leave. That's part of playing a sport. And I came back, and he had said something to me about, got up my tail about missing class. I was like, but I don't have a choice to miss the class and whatever. And then I would work out in the summertime at UCLA with Troy Aikman and Flipper Anderson and Ken Norton Jr. and all these guys that were phenomenal. Charles Arbuckle, these great ball players, all who went to the NFL. And they were treated like kings. Like they didn't do anything. I'm like, why do I go to a place that treats me like a Neanderthal, and is angry because I miss a class? And but I know why now. I mean, it was just such an incredible university, incredible education that I received, both on and off the field and in and out of the classroom. I mean, that you really, because everybody lives on the class, you live on the campus. It's a residential campus, so you're around everybody all the time. I look back at the people that I went to school with, guys. If you'd have told me that someone in school when I was a sophomore would change the way commerce is done, I would like, what do you mean? It's impossible. Everything's already been done. But Jeff Bezos was, he was 2 years ahead of me at Princeton. Michelle Obama was 2 years ahead of me at Princeton. These things, and all these people end up doing wonderful things in life, and it's great. That's one of the things that's great about going to a university like Princeton is now these people who you were friends with through college and did stupid things with are now people running, billion-dollar companies and they're heads of state and whatever happens. It's an incredible. That's one of the best reasons to go to a school like that.
Yeah, fatherhood's been the biggest deal to you in your life, isn't it? So I was watching an interview with you where you were talking about. I relate to this a little bit, but you were saying your son has done jujitsu.
Oh, yeah.
He was a fighter, and at one time he was kind of totally tired, beaten up, and ends up coming back in a fight. And you were saying that it was like this swell of, what's fatherhood been like for you?
Fatherhood's the greatest journey I've ever been on, ever, bar none. You look at phases of your life. I was in college for these years. I was doing this, Superman for these years. But I can't imagine my life without that kid in it. My son, Christopher, he came in, and I was a single father, so I raised him. I shared custody with his mom until he was 9, and then I had full custody from there on. And he is just my favorite person. It's the most trying, most testing thing you've ever done. I had to learn so many things. He taught me so many things along the way, patience, and he's just a very different guy than me. He hates team sports. He never liked team sports. I loved team sports. Individual sports were harder, but I wrestled, so I was wrestling with him a lot as a kid, and he was very good at that. He didn't like football. He didn't like the big hits and things like that, which I loved. So I said, why don't you get into jiu-jitsu? And he trained jiu-jitsu with some Brazilian jiu-jitsu artists, and he was phenomenal, and he was very good at it. And, but I just didn't know if he ever had that lion's heart, and he was scared to compete. He was very much of an introvert, loved his video games. So I tried to teach him everything I could, and I knew we were going to go down to San Diego and have a tournament. And he was 16 at the time, I think, and he was going in there to fight guys who were 35, men's strength, not kid strength. And he did 2 different divisions, so he ended up having 5 or 6 fights that day, and he had never fought in a tournament before. And I just didn't know how he was going to react. And he was so tired in between. I had him back in my truck, like rubbing his legs out, trying to get his calves going, his hands, things, feed him. So he was just laying there asleep. He took a nap a few times. And then he finally gets in the final match. And unfortunately, the coaches weren't able to go down there. So I had to coach him, and I don't know how to coach jiu-jitsu. Sorry, buddy. And so I'm trying to yell things to him, but he was getting stacked up, and I thought this kid is just done. He has no more. He can't even go. It kept going. And then he likes to fight from his back. He jumps guard and does a lot of crazy things with his legs. And then all of a sudden, he locked it in.
He did it. That's so beautiful.
It kills me because I knew at that moment, he had that lion's heart,
Yeah.
and,
it's in there. Right.
Yeah.
Oh, I love that.
Sports get me. I'm a big baby for sports.
Yeah.
And because what it takes physically and mentally to get to a place like that and then overcome it is incredible.
Yeah. A lot of people don't know you're a reserve police officer.
Yes, sir.
So last night I was telling my wife this, and
I'm actually a full sheriff's deputy, in Frederick County, Virginia as well. So
are you? So Idaho and
Yep.
Virginia. Yeah, I was telling my wife this last night. She's like, so imagine a scenario where somebody gets arrested by Superman. Mom, I got arrested by Superman.
Yes, and listen, if I can de-escalate the situation and because of that have a conversation with them and put the cuffs on nicely, that's a good thing.
Right.
That's a good thing. It's just, I don't want it to go the other way where they're like, can these bullets really bounce off you? And I'm like, no, absolutely not. But if it disarms the situation and sort of de-escalates it, that's great. But yeah, so I've been doing this for about 5 or 6 years now.
That's interesting.
I have huge respect for our law enforcement men and women, and it's been a really tough, trying time for these wonderful sheepdogs. These are people who are there to protect and serve. Of course, there are bad apples within any organization.
Right.
And in this room right now, there's probably one. But it's been unfortunate the way that things have gone, this whole defund the police movement. One of the number one things you need in any sort of civilized society is law and order. Yeah. And you're always going to need a police force. Right. And hopefully those police forces, both of the forces that I'm on, are really engaged in the community, and they're really tight with the community and super friendly. And that's really the bigger part of my job as an officer, is to keep that community engagement up and represent the police force in a positive way, in a friendly way. I'll be going back to Virginia to be the marshal of a couple parades, and I'll be doing it with my fellow officers, and that'll be fun. That's happening at the end of the month, and it's a wonderful thing. But yeah, listen, if they told me to put the cuffs on you, I'd have to put the cuffs on you.
So I was thinking about this. So 1993, so the whole Lois and Clark thing happens. So you're cruising along, and I know you did Beverly Hills 90210. You're doing a few things, but then this thing. What's it like? I mean, you don't know it's going to hit. I feel like it's like, I mean, I don't know anything, but I feel like it's kind of like.
That means you really do know stuff. When you realize that you don't know anything,
I don't know very much.
It means that you know a lot.
You're getting everything right now that I got. So this is a big one. But I mean, it's like a roulette, like a craps table or something. I'm going to throw my $20 on the hard 8, and we'll see if it hits. Like
it feels like that.
I mean, so 1993 happens. I mean, this show goes from to a place where you're averaging 15 million viewers an episode. I mean, this was but you don't know that going in. I mean, you just think, okay, I'll do this, and sounds fun. I mean, walk us through, and all of a sudden, what was the point where you were like, wow, this is hitting?
It was a couple of years into it, and I'll explain the process. So when I first heard about it, I was like, a live action Superman, I don't think they can pull it off in television, and I was concerned. But I was getting a lot of scripts at that point in time, because suddenly something had clicked and it was the right time for me, and I knew that was the case. But my agent was like, this is 6 on the air. This 6 episodes on the air. They're going to make 6. It's going on the air. Look at it. And I read the script, and I was like, oh, this is different than I thought. I was picturing the Christopher Reeve Superman, I just didn't think we could pull off the special effects. But then I read the script and I said, I understand this guy. I get this guy. And I came in and I read for it, and I had read the script the night before, because back in that days you had to go pick up the script and then go back, and they couldn't email it because that didn't exist. Right. And so I came in, I was the first person the producer saw. All kinds of, everybody in Hollywood was going up for the role, I guess, but I went in there as the first person. I was very relaxed because it felt comfortable to me. Like I knew the character in my heart. And I just said, I think I might have a different take on this. It was a guy named Robert Butler, Deborah Joy Levine, who wrote it and was the exec producer. But Robert Butler was known as, he was the director, but he was also known as the pilot maker. Like if he does your pilot episode, Hill Street Blues, whatever, that's what he's done. His resume was long, and I see why, after they chose me and he took me under his wing. I understand now, because he was an incredible gift to create chemistry and have people work together and find the character. But I went in there, read it. There was just 3 people in the room, those 2 and somebody on the camera. I did it. He goes, okay, thanks, bye. That was it. A couple weeks go by. I thought, okay, that didn't happen. It'll be something else. And somebody said at a party, somebody was a casting associate for something and said to my buddy, hey, they really like your pal for that Superman thing. And I was like, what? Because I'd already forgotten it. And then it turned out that they had been going through all the rest of their auditions. I was at the very beginning, and they decided that it was myself and a few others. So they came back and would have chemistry reads. They'd have you and another Lois Lane and this and that. So we were doing that, but I never was able to work with Terry Hatcher. I saw her along the way. And then the audition process went through, and finally I went to network, and they brought 2 Supermen into network. I mean, I was terrified because it's a very intimidating process. You go in front of these people, you see all the other people, the other guy who was there was the other Superman was Kevin Sorbo. And I had known Kevin too, and he's blonde. I was like, he's blonde. This is over. It's over. And then we did the reading and stuff, and I ended up getting cast. It was wonderful. That was on a Thursday. That following Monday, they made me come back and read with 10 different Lois Lanes. And the last one was Terry Hatcher. And she had been at network, but they never paired us up. And her first words to me when I wanted to rehearse with her was, she goes, you don't like me, do you? And I was like, I don't, you didn't talk to me the last time at network. I was like, I didn't talk to anybody. I was terrified. But that was the nature of our relationship. And that's right away, she set the tone. And that's funny, because that's the Lois and Clark relationship, and that she was the driver of it. And she was the best Lois Lane of the bunch. The great thing was the audition process that day. First of all, it was in front of the network again. So I had to do it 10 times in a row. I thought, they're gonna see that I can't do this and I'm out of here. They're gonna toss me. And the scene was an inebriated Lois finally decides she's going to sleep with Clark. And so I open the door, she kisses me on the lips, and then proceeds to try to seduce me. And I don't let that happen, because Clark is extremely moral, and there's no way that would happen, as bad as he wants to. And I had to do this with 10 girls in a row. It was the greatest job ever. I couldn't believe it. But it was, you could see how nervous I got more comfortable as it went on, but I could see how nervous the actresses were coming in and all that stuff. And there was just no rules. It was crazy. But I would also listen to the network execs talk about them afterwards. And I just sat there. And finally Terry came in and we got the jobs. But you feel that at the time there were 3 networks, ABC, CBS, and NBC. That was it. The CW, those things didn't exist. None of those other networks did. There was no cable. That was it. So it was a big deal, and there were gajillions of eyes on you. And it got to the point where you think, okay, we thought, okay, it's going to be huge, and then it wasn't huge. It was okay. It was doing good. It was doing very well. But and then second year, and then things just start. It just out of nowhere, it kind of just you realize that's happening. We're in it, and it got to a point where because you're doing so much work all the time that you get lost. And I remember being asleep. I'd be sleeping and going, no more pictures. I remember being in that position, and it was a very odd thing, but I was 27 years old. I was 26 when it started, but I was 27 years old. I had played professional football. I had a great education. I was a man when that stuff happened to me, and it was almost overwhelming for me. I can't imagine what a Justin Bieber or one of those young kids, when you hit that kind of fame and stardom at that young age, no wonder they all get screwed up. Yeah. Because it's really a difficult thing to navigate. I can't even imagine it now with the social media and things like that. So my heart goes out to those young stars, and how they can keep it together is surprising to me. And I was fortunate enough to watch all my friends go through their foibles. Rob Lowe singing at the Oscars and doing some other things at the Democratic National Convention. Sorry, Rob, I love you. But they made mistakes. Charlie made some mistakes that I was like, I'm not making that mistake. I'm not doing that. And I got to see some things that they did and realize the repercussions. And of course, I'm out of that whole group. I'm the only one who went to college as well. So when people start asking me why our politics, and actually Rob's politics and I aren't too far apart, but like Sean Penn, guys like that, their politics are far apart. They go, why are your politics so far apart from these guys you grew up with? I said, well, I went to college. I'm kidding though. No, we just happen to just have different views.
Right.
But they're all still family. I mean, like Sean Penn is. If I saw Sean, I'd be nothing but a hug, and I'd be as comfortable if he was sitting on my couch. It's our families were best friends. Our parents were best friends when we were.
I remember a day when you could be friends with people who had different political views and actually
I still
hug
embrace
one
that.
another.
I still embrace that.
Isn't that a good idea?
It's a wonderful idea.
I was thinking about tolerance the other day. So I heard this quote. This guy named Tim Keller, he's a pastor in New York, and he said something because tolerance is a virtue. Tolerance is a good thing. He says, if you're intolerant of people that you think are intolerant, you're still intolerant.
You're still intolerant. It's
Isn't
100% correct. Yes. Well, they talk about diversity of everything. Everything's diversified. We are, diversity, equity, inclusion, things. Diversity, it's fine, except not diversity of thought. They don't allow that, and that's number one on the list.
Yeah.
So I value everybody's opinion. I listen to it. If I have a different opinion, I'll state that respectfully.
Yeah.
I don't demonize someone I disagree with, but I say let's have a rational conversation about it. And if you can convince me I'm wrong, I'll adopt your position.
Right.
I mean, it probably won't happen, but let's have the conversation.
But we can have a conversation, but you can't just say, well, I don't agree with you, so you're canceled.
Right. Well, cancel culture is
this is insane.
It's completely insane. And I hope there's a period of time, I studied history. I love history. I hope there's a period of time we look back at this and are embarrassed.
Right.
Like we as a society are embarrassed at the idea of cancel culture. Because it's not a new idea. I mean, it's blacklisting, it's authoritarianism, it's fascism.
Right.
That's what it is.
Right.
When people don't understand, when they're like, you fascist this, blah, blah, you're canceled. I'm like, do you really understand what you just said? Canceling someone is fascism. Doing that, saying that they're no longer worth because of their point of view, that's literally fascism.
Right.
So it's crazy to me that these folks are out there trying to cancel folks because and I listen, I've had the target on me 100 million times, fortunate for me, I'm bullets bounce off my chest, so it's
you're Superman. I forgot.
As long as no one really tries that, please. Now, fortunately for me, I have a thick skin, and I remember at first on social media, I didn't want people to. I didn't like it when somebody said something that was counter to me. I was like, I want everybody to like me. Now I don't care.
That ship has sailed.
That ship is more than sailed.
Yeah.
It is motored out of the harbor. It's gone. It's a cigarette boat on fire.
Right.
Because it's ridiculous. Now it's almost a badge of honor.
Yeah.
When people come after me, great. It's like I say, I think the wall should be gray. Oh, you were the worst Superman ever. Don't see where that kind of comes into play, but okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah, that's the argument. So I figure I've already won if that's where they're going.
Tolerance is important. We need to be tolerant. I've become like into tolerance all of a sudden because we need to be tolerant, and that I mean, yeah. Anyway, we could talk about that for an hour, but
days.
So, Trafficked, real quick, and I want to talk about your newest. I can't wait to talk about Little Angels. Trafficked was a really revealing experience for you. You played a private investigator. I've been learning, we've had a couple of shows with some guests about this trafficking situation, which has been eye-opening for me. And so I'm guessing doing the movie was eye-opening for you. The reality of what's going on.
The numbers are just shocking and what goes on and the different countries involved and how much happens here in the United States. So in the film Trafficked, I played a private, you can call him a bounty hunter in a sense. He was, if your child was taken,
that's the guy you want.
This is the guy you want to call. Right. Now he's not going to be. He's a little unscrupulous, but he's going to get the job done. He's going to find your kid. There are. It is so prevalent. They know who traffickers are. Like they're aware of who traffickers are, and they want to get the kids back and out of the systems. But they don't always want to take down all the traffickers because then they won't be able to catch all the other kids and think it's a really weird awful thing. That's part of what made me join the police force. I work with the Internet Crimes Against Children, and that's one of our task force that we deal with. And it's near and dear to my heart because being a parent, you just realize this could be your kid. And it's terrifying.
Yeah.
It's terrifying, and that's not a world you want anybody to be in. But I mean, Vegas, anywhere around Super Bowls or anything like that, the number of people, Orlando is one of the highest trafficking areas and it's because people will come into Disneyland, they're business people. I mean, it's the people who are doing this stuff. It's shocking and it's disgusting. And those people, if I got a chance to take them down, I won't put the cuffs on them quite as nicely, I imagine, because I find it reprehensible. It's abhorrent, and it exists. It exists everywhere in the United States.
It's important for parents to know this.
Oh my gosh!
I mean, it's because it's a different world that we're living in now.
Especially because they get to there's an open door to your house, into your kid's smartphone, into their video games. I mean, they're online. So I took to playing the video games with my son. So when we were in the rooms and doing things, I'm on the ears too. I hear it all. And when I hear anything that was off and wrong, all these kids are talking. All of a sudden, I'd be like, "Hey, I'm his dad." Everything, things like that would happen, and it's frightening because they really want to target your children. These predators, and they're everywhere because there's a lot of money in it, and there's a lot of the numbers are staggering as far as the amount of kids that are trafficked and where they're trafficked, and and how many kids just go missing every year. It's mind-boggling, and I think with the way our border is right now, it's just going to get worse and worse. It's terrifying.
Right.
It's terrifying.
Yeah, and I'm glad we're talking about this. I'm glad there's movies coming out about it. There's another one that we just were talking about. I believe light's the greatest disinfectant, and so
Always.
shining light on the problem. And for parents, we have 5 kids, and we're in the teenage phase, which is painful. I used to be right so often.
Oh, no.
It's over. The days, I'm like done.
But then, when they go to college, they come back and they are surprised at how smart you got. That's it. Hey,
I can't wait.
You got much smarter.
I'm dreaming of that. but we can't, coming off of looking at, a movie like Trafficked and the truth, the reality, in the name of privacy, we can't put our heads in the sand because because our kids deserve this. Like, we have to be on guard
100%
for them, protecting, and that's something I think that is new, and we got to give my kids. Well, I mean, yeah, you want to give your kid privacy, but you also have to protect them from these wolves.
They are wolves. They are predators. My son, so growing up, he hated this, but he respects it now. If I try to get onto a device or on an app or something of his, and I couldn't get on his computer or couldn't get on his phone, or if he changed the password or did anything, I just said, give me it, just let me look at it right now, and I'm going to go through it. And if ever there was a time where I couldn't get on something, I said, this device either syncs or flies. It's going to do one or the other. If I don't like it, and you won't have one, because I need to be able to look at it. And he's like, well, I don't want this. When he started doing some things that were wrong, he turned off like his location finder. I mean, the kids think like, I'll just turn on the location finder.
Right.
I'm like, ding, location finder's off. I'm like, what are you doing?
Right.
So
you're not going to Bible study probably if you turn your location finder off.
Not.
Yeah.
But it's the thing, you have to. There's privacy, but there is, even now I have, we're on a thing where I can see where he is. And he can see where I am for safety.
Us too.
And if you're doing something where you want to turn that off, you probably shouldn't be doing it.
Right.
And the kids have to forego some of that privacy. You just don't get that because there are even with the pictures they send. And I've had all these conversations. Internet's forever. You take pictures, you do something. There was a story of a kid who killed himself not that long ago, last week, where it was a young senior in high school, had the whole world in front of him because of some photos that sent to somebody that were going to get out there, and he was being blackmailed, and he killed himself. That sort of stuff happens every day, and there are people fishing for that, looking for that, trying to get that. And I have a young goddaughter who's 11 and a niece that are 11, and I have these conversations with them all the time about what goes on. I look at some of their Instagram posts, or TikTok is another thing, because and the Snapchats, the kids they talk by Snapchat because it disappears,
right?
And that sort of thing, and it doesn't really though. That's what they don't get. It doesn't really disappear. It exists on a server somewhere. So all those things do, and any of the cyber security people will tell you. They can get into your phones. That's why I always put something over my cameras at home. They can get into your cameras. They can, all that sort of stuff. So these are our children. The children have to respect that mom and dad, or either or both, will have to be able to look on and see what they're doing. And if you can get that situation with your child put together, they're a lot safer.
Yeah. And there's nothing wrong with accountability.
No.
That's a good thing.
It's a wonderful thing. And it's one of those things. You'll appreciate it when you're older. You might not like it so much right now, but I love you, and that's what we're doing.
Okay, so Little Angels. So
it just makes me smile.
This is fun. So so Dean is directing. He's writing. He's starring. This is the story of Jake Rogers, his Division I college football coach, who ends up getting a female place kicker. She misses a kick. He makes an offhanded comment that's offensive, and so he gets in trouble with the NCAA, and he ends up having to coach a team of 12-year-old girls. It just sounds great. This sounds great.
It's a fun setup, and it's a fun situation. It reminds me of the Mighty Ducks, you know.
Right.
So Gordon Bombay getting busted, have to go coach a bunch of kids. He didn't want to do that. He's a great hockey player. Well, my character is a great football coach, but doesn't know anything about coaching girls, and doesn't know anything about soccer. But ends up, you start to spend some time with the girls. He does, and he starts to change a little bit. And then he sees the kids getting picked on, so then he wants to protect them, and he's teaching them different things. And then he gets all in. He falls in love with the kids and their heart and their passion. And it was such a fun process. I enjoyed this so much. Tremendous hard work, but it was really great. So proud of the movie. We made a family-friendly, lovely film. If anybody's got kids who play soccer, especially girls, there's like 3 movies you can watch. There's like Bend It Like Beckham, Ladybugs, and the one that Alex Morgan made. I never saw that one, but that's about it. Little Angels, because I'm an athlete and I directed the movie, the soccer is very good. The girls are very good, and it's like real stuff, and that's something that was very important to me as an athlete. I hate when they kick the ball and then they cut to the net. It's in the, you're like, I didn't make it. It's much more exciting to me, and hopefully to the young soccer players, when they see how athletic these girls are and how good of athletes they are and how great these plays are. And so hopefully this will become sort of the go-to for all the boys. Little boys, but anybody should love this film. It's got heart. It's got romance. It's got a lot of comedy. I didn't realize it was as much of a comedy as it is. And it's just it's one of those things that, like, when you say Little Angels, I smile, because it's that warm, fuzzy feeling. And we're finding distributors now. We're out to distributors, and people are all looking at it, and I don't know where it's going to end up, but I feel like when it gets out there and the audience can find it, wherever it ends up, if it's on a streaming platform, it's in the theaters, whatever it is, that the audience will find it, and it will hopefully become, like the Mighty Ducks, that go-to movie for girls soccer. Yeah. That's what I hope.
That's so great.
For any soccer.
And by the way, so we're having a Damascus Road experience today. We're at Damascus Road Studios. Ryan and Heather O'Quinn are involved in the production of this, and Damascus Road Studios. I don't know how it all ties together, but
I can tell you.
Tell us.
So I came to Ryan and Heather with this script. They went through their process at Damascus, and they were like, it got great reviews, and it was the highest rated sort of script that they had seen. They've got daughters who play soccer. They're very much involved in this world. They know it well. They're the ones who are like, there's nothing to watch for our girls, and they jumped in feet first. I mean, it got to the point where we finally got financed. There was a lot of confusion. This always is. It's amazing any movie ever gets done. And then it was a Thursday, and it was football season. It was like April, and it's not football season. But last year, because of the pandemic, football had gotten canceled, so they played a spring season. And I'm a police officer up in Idaho, and Idaho State's right there. And I'm close with the former head coach, and I do a lot of things as police officers over there. My chief's really close with those guys. They allowed us to shoot. They had a game. They were going to have a game on a Saturday, on that coming Saturday. It was Thursday. And I told Ryan, hey, you want to go shoot? We can go shoot, because we had to shoot at a football game. And I said, we got a game here. We can go shoot right now. We weren't supposed to start filming for another month. He's like, okay. So myself, Ryan, a camera guy, and a sound guy, all total pros, got up there, flew a guy in from Chicago, Barry Brewer, who's phenomenal in the movie, and we shot a whole bunch of footage right then and there, and that's how it started. And then we obviously partnered up, and Damascus. So this whole film is in association with Damascus Road Productions, and Heather and Ryan have been wonderful partners, and we got a whole bunch of other stuff to do after this, but it's been a wonderful partnership, and I love the studio they have here, and they have more friends than any. Ryan and Heather seem to know everybody, like everyone, and it's wonderful, and they're wonderful partners in this project.
These are great people.
Yes,
Ryan and Heather O'Quinn. If you don't know who they are, sports is such an important thing for kids, isn't it?
I think it's incredibly important because it teaches you so many life lessons.
Yeah.
There's always going to be somebody better, faster, stronger. When you get knocked down, you better be able to get back up.
Yeah.
Hard work creates success. Perseverance, consistency. Those are things that are going to separate you from the crowd. And if you don't do those things, just like in life, then you won't find the success you might need. I look at all the hardest moments I ever had, like my son in his jiu-jitsu. That moment was a character building for his life.
Right.
He'll be in some situation in his life where he's like, I just can't get it done. He'll think, wait a minute, I would five fights that day. I was stacked up by a 32-year-old, and there was still a shot, and I did do it, so I can finish this. And that's the kind of stuff that is huge in life, and that's why I think sports are so important. And I think it's important for kids to play a number of sports. Sometimes they get so concentrated on a single sport nowadays. I played everything under the sun. Even at college, I was a 3 sports, athlete. So I think it's really important to have some balance.
It's hard to do these days, but
it is hard to do. They're trying to make it too specialized, and I just don't agree with that.
I got a freshman in high school who did 3 this year.
Great.
Football, basketball, baseball, and he was, I think, one of 2 that did that.
Because they tried to get him not to.
But back in my day, we all did that. Of
course.
Everybody did that. Now it's like every coach is kind of, jockeying, but we made it real clear going in. I'm like, he likes all 3. He's played all 3 growing up. He's going to play all 3, and so he can't show up in August for baseball. But sorry, but it worked out, and I don't know if it'll work out for 4 years, but I think it's really important.
It probably won't work out for 4 years because he's going to choose.
Right.
He'll know where he probably feels best. They'll probably figure out where he fits best. I mean, I went all the way through high school, 3 sports.
Right.
But
I wish we could still do that.
We should be able to.
Yeah.
And there are athletes that do, even if it's 2 sports. I mean, look at like Russell Wilson, the guys who get football and baseball and those couple of things. I think it's wonderful when they have those options, and I think it's great for athletes. So young athletes, play all sports, do them all.
Right.
I'm talking to all the cameras.
Sports are important. Resiliency. You're talking about your son's story. I always think about, to quote the great philosopher Mike Tyson, everybody has a plan until you get hit in the mouth.
Yep, it's true.
All of a sudden.
But that goes to everything in life.
It's true.
And we say that all the time as police officers too. That's the whole thing is, because there's always a plan. Even if I do a lot of military tactic training, things like that. We always have a plan, and then something goes wrong immediately.
It's over.
And you always have to adjust on the fly. And the more training you can do, and the more preparation you can do for life and anything else, it's always going to happen. Life will always punch you in the mouth.
Yeah.
So you need to have that backbone, that determination, that perseverance, and the ability to get back up and know, okay, all you can do is take that next step. Right. And you have to. Mike Tyson also said something else, to quote that great philosopher. He said that social media has made people way too comfortable saying things because they don't get punched in the face for it. Something that I saw that on your Twitter. I saw that on your Twitter. I think it's great. Yeah. People are too comfortable because nobody's going to punch them in the face. To say that, you wouldn't say. One of the things I say on my Twitter bio is, I wouldn't tweet anything I wouldn't say to your face.
Right.
And I mean that.
Right.
So when I say something a little bit biting, my hackles are up a little bit, and I would say that to them too.
Right.
But people don't do that, and they say these things, and that anonymity. Twitter, look, Elon Musk is in there now. Maybe some things will change on Twitter.
That's right.
I don't like the anonymous people who can just maintain their anonymity and say such hurtful, awful things, and then just make up a new account. I think there needs to be some accountability.
And the thing about Twitter, it's such a cesspool.
That's a great word for it.
But if all the light, like you got 550,000, whatever, 600,000 followers. If all the good people, and I'm not just talking about politically what side you're on, I'm talking about good people. If all the good people leave, then it's even more of a cesspool. I mean, there's kind of the chicken or the egg.
It's true. I hope it becomes a thing where you don't censor People,
Right.
Unless
Either side.
Either side. I don't think that, unless you're calling for action, violence.
Right.
I think that's otherwise. The First Amendment exists so you can protect unpopular opinions. Now, I may not agree with someone's ability to burn the flag. I may want to pull that flag out of there. But if it's protected under the First Amendment,
Yeah.
okay, they have that right.
Right.
I would rather not see the flag burn because I believe in those colors and I believe what the flag stands for. And I know many, many men and women who have died
Right.
fighting for the freedoms that we love and take for granted here in America. But I believe that you have to fight to protect even the unpopular opinions.
Yes, I agree with that. So I've been reading about you. I've known of you obviously for a long time, but so we only have a couple minutes left. But here's you strike me as a guy that is like, you're leaving it all on the field. That's how when I got done kind of research, this guy's all in. Like is that kind of, when you think about legacy and you start to, I know you're not spending a whole lot of time thinking about your legacy, probably you're too busy.
I'm too young.
And you're too young. But you seem like the kind of guy who's just kind of leaving it all out there. You're going for it. Am I reading that?
100% correctly. There's things like my mom hates that I'm a police officer, and she hates that I speak up about things because she wants to protect me. I don't want you out there. People are crazy. They'll do this, and it's dangerous, and I get that. But I respect our men and women in law enforcement and what they do, and it's so unpopular to do that. I'll happily stand side by side and be on the unpopular side in that sense. That's not the popular stand. The stance to take. And all my values and morals, they've existed in me since I was a little kid. Maybe they were, given to me from my farmer dad, but they have always existed. And I'm about fairness for people. I treat everybody with respect, irrespective of their station in life or their education. I'll treat everybody fairly and give them a fair shake. But I think that that's where we should be, And there's a saying, I don't want to end this life, in perfect health, and it's like I want to come skidding in sideways with pieces falling off, going, "Woo, that was a hell of a ride!" Right. That's the way to do it. So I look at the moments in my life where the things that I achieved the most were always the times where I thought, you know what, I don't know if I can do this.
Yeah.
I'm even directing, writing, producing, starring in Little Angels. I was like, I hope I can do this, and I loved it. Yeah. And there was moments where I was like, woo. Hosting different shows, things. I'm like, oh boy, I'm not sure if I can do this. And then you do it and you go, yeah, I can do that. Yeah. So I look at the biggest gains and even getting to the NFL, I was like, oh my gosh, this is going to be hard. Then the guy ran a pattern. I was like, oh, I'm moving. I'm in. I'm already doing it. Right. This is it. I belong here. Like that question for me has been answered. I know I would have, in my mind, I'd have been there for a while in the NFL. I don't have that question, but I wonder if I'd have made it. In my mind, I would have made it for sure. But I would have worked harder. I'll outwork anybody if I have to. Right. But I think that's the.
I'm guessing you'd have made it.
I feel like it.
I mean, just yeah.
Although Coach Levy did say later, it's really tough to be a Buffalo Bill. Hell, we cut Superman. Thank you, Coach.
That's good. That's good. The movie's Little Angels. It's coming out soon. We don't know where, but it'll be out. We will see it for sure. This is a man in the arena. I love that. I could go on. I was telling him in the car, I'm inspired by George Washington all of a sudden. Like I'm hearing these new George Washingtons. Ben Carson spoke at my old church last weekend.
Ben Carson's an amazing guy. He also operated on my best friend's daughter in Maryland.
Oh, did he really?
And he saved her life, Elizabeth. Yeah, so she
just
graduated from Princeton.
He's a noble man. He's in the arena.
Extremely.
But he was telling stories about George Washington and how he got shot and he survived and how he, it was almost like God had this hand. And I'm just so inspired by noble men and women who are in the arena, even today, where they're not afraid, and that's where you are. So I love it. And you're a dean.
Yes, sir.
We're made for each other.
Yeah,
Dean Cain.
I appreciate Dean. Thank you.
Thank you, brother.
And absolute respect, much respect. Thank you.
Dean Cain, everybody. How much fun was that? This is Good Life. We'll see you next time.
Dean squared.
Good.